Okay, so I mentioned about that journey of life as part of our explaining how best we can understand the child protection framework. Just put it in its context so that you are able to understand it. And that is where we have the micro level, you have all those stakeholders around, you have the macro, you know, the meso, where you have the councils and other things, and at a macro level, then you have actually the central government and the UN systems. That is what we did talk about last time. And we said around these, you have issues of policies for government, right? You have issues of the laws for government. And for UN, you have issues of conventions, you have issues of their treaties, and also issues of protocols. Now, these provide that framework for managing issues of child protection. Policies and laws are interpreted at the council level, and also implementation is at the council level. And at micro level, we are trying to promote. So the promotion is about the policies that we produce, the laws that we produce, and all sorts of things. And here at the council level, then we have complete protection. That's why we're trying to protect, but also there's also the issue of how you prevent and also some identification at that level. This is what it is. Now, how does that fit into what I call the journey of life? Journey of life is a community awareness and mobilization tool. Now, if you look at this one, if it is a community mobilization and awareness tool on child protection, what role does it play? And at what level is that going to be important? So looking at the journey of a child as an individual in terms of growth, development, as an individual in terms of protection, it starts at the macro level, at the micro level, at the lowest possible level, where you have the individual, where you have the family, and also where you have the community. And that is where you have the identification and also the prevention measures that must be designed to address the issue of that particular child. Now, given that, so the journey of life is actually a strategy, right? It is a tool which as much as it was developed to address issues of HIV and AIDS, it's an old tool. I think we dropped it around 2000 to try to mitigate the impact of vulnerability of children, or vulnerability on children because of the HIV and AIDS pandemic at that particular time. This is how it was. So here you find that we are actually trying to also apply this type of strategy into how it can help to protect children at those three different levels. Yes, please. In the journey of life, just how it can help you. Now, here, when you look at issues of vulnerabilities, it's quite broad. But now, when we're building the journey of life, we're trying to fit it into what we used to go, the MGDSs. Those are 2011 to 2016. But now we're talking about the SGDs. See your jet? Is it SGDs or SDGs? SDGs. Yes. So why did you say SGDs? Okay. So here we find that we're trying to provide a roadmap where individuals at every level of our framework can provide that type of protection to children and also to fit into the normal interventions that are part of a bigger Okay, so this is how we were looking at what we call the uh, journey of life. Now, let's move forward just to look at it. What is it? You find that the journey of life as a strategy also has a lot of linkages, right? Here we're talking about the law and the policy. So you can see that at the same time, apart from journey of life being a strategy, maybe this one should be as a strategy here on child protection, right? You can see it's also coming down to number 3. Issues of the policy is coming around, issues of the law is coming around, and also cuts across, comes into the issues of the center part of the structure that we have. So we have government around and we have implementing organizations within. So here it is. Let's look at what is journey of life as a strategy, right? It can come in as a very simple examination question, so that at least that's the time everybody just has to answer. I can decide to put all questions, get all questions from this today's presentation, so that we have a lot of zeros. It will be good, I think. Yeah. Yes, I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, so I can write supplement. I think that will be better. Yeah. No, that's not the issue. The issue is, can we really understand what this strategy is all about? I said it's a strategy that helps to build awareness and also see how interventions can be developed or crafted to address issues of child vulnerability at various or different levels. And it's much more applicable, particularly as an awareness tool at the micro level. That's why we're trying to bring out the actual issues with what communities are supposed to do. So it comes in 3 components. 1, it is a community awareness and mobilization tool to provide knowledge on how communities can identify, right? And on our micro, there's the issue of identification, respond, and protect. So you can see that within the framework, at a micro level, there's the issue of identification, there's the issue of response, and there will be the issue of actually prevention, right? And also how communities can work together to mitigate all issues that can affect a child's welfare. Number 2, parenting skills. So Journey of Life is about what we call best practices in child care and protection. So it's about the best practices in child care and practices. And here we're talking about, we mentioned already about issues of awareness creation and mobilization and things like those. But parenting is about the actual skills. What type of skills are required by parents or caregivers to ensure that children are protected from generalized abuse or specifically from the certain vulnerabilities that expose them to that type of abuse. So you see that here it plays a double role to not only bring awareness, but also to train and teach parents on child care practices, skills, and also how those can be escalated to provide actual protection to children at that level. And number 3 is the issue of management and resilience building. That's one role of the journey of life. How do we build resilience? In other words, how do we capacitate communities and individuals to be able to manage trauma-affected children? In other words, children have already been abused. What happens to those? Do we just leave them the way they are? Or are we supposed to manage their traumatic experiences? Indeed, we are supposed to manage their traumatic experiences and also to see how that type of resilience building can be occasioned. So here, Journey of Life is associated with what we call the PSS, which is the psychosocial approach. A psychosocial approach, again, is a strategy within a strategy, right? To help children in situations that are traumatic. That's sort. So PSS is a vulnerability management strategy. PSS is a vulnerability management strategy and also is a resilience building strategy. Here, we do try to provide specialized trainings to children. Protection must also be an issue that involves children themselves, right? So in the PSS, we do provide that type of training so that children should be able to also mitigate abuse in one way or the other. By one, reporting, for example, right? Is it possible that children can be abused and keep quiet? It's 90% of children get abused and they keep quiet. The reason is they have no skill. They have the fear, right? So in PSS, and as a part of Journey of Life, we try to train those children in those particular skills. How do they respond to situations? How do they identify that a situation is putting them into a vulnerable situation? So we look at all those things around and also see how best we can help them. So you find that Journey of Life actually looks at all these three issues. Does it fit into the framework of you check? Yes, it does. Okay. So here, you find that we are looking at why did we have to come up with the Journey of Life, and also what do you think are the causes of vulnerability for children in Malawi? There are quite a number of those. We've looked at issues of child protection, we've looked at safeguarding and all sorts of things, but we've never looked at what actually brings about such situations to children. So here, when we're designing this strategy, it was based on evidence, right? In social work, we've mentioned about issues of evidence always, right? So here, all that we were doing was based on evidence, and the evidence is here. It was noted that over 2 million children then, that is around 2000, whatever, 53 girls and 47 boys were actually in very vulnerable situations because of poverty, inadequate education for caregivers. All that means that where children live in households where caregivers have little or no knowledge on care taking, right, or care providing, children become vulnerable. There's also a situation where children are orphaned, for example. An orphaned child is a vulnerable child, right? We all know. Whether orphanhood is due to the loss of one parent or both parents. The only difference is that when you have a problem with both parents, then the vulnerability is also escalated and it becomes tougher. Issues of parental control and guidance. Is it possible for a child to be exposed or to be vulnerable to abuse because of lack of parental control and guidance? How? You're forgotten. No. You said yes to me as you know. So how do you fail to explain? What? Okay, give us an example in Chichewa. Can lack of parental control and guidance expose a child to abusive situation or to vulnerability?
I would rather choose to live my life the way I want and expose myself to that. For example, I can engage myself in drug and substance abuse, sexual activities ending up in early pregnancy and marriage, which is bad for a child.
Okay, yeah, at least. So yes, it is true. Parental control and the lack of guidance, this can predispose a child to vulnerability. And the vulnerabilities come in different parts. Drop out from school, for example. HIV and AIDS, you contract it, and also maybe issues of early marriages, as you mentioned. So yes, it's true. Now, so in our journey of life and also the PSS approach, we're trying to reskill children on how to identify vulnerable situations and also how they can respond to that type of situation when they are faced with it in one way or the other. Poor living conditions. These two can predispose a child to a situation where that child becomes vulnerable. Now, so here you find that right now as we're talking, there are so many children who are now being, their rights are being violated, right? We know that. Issue of sexual abuse, as you are sitting here, these things are happening around somewhere. And too many other forms of abuse, exploitation, for example, and neglect in the homes, right? We have situations where children are neglected in their home. Twambi, when we talk about neglect, what is it? Child neglect is what? Okay, so children being prone to harm, or children who have been neglected are children who lack parental control. There's no parental control, and out of that, then you have those children who, as we just mentioned earlier on, don't have the adequate parental guidance, right? So all these things can predispose a child to a lot of abusive situations. And also you find that there are a lot of issues of dropout from school, for example. It will be a problem of poverty, or it will be a problem of lack of care or lack of mentorship and something like that. And also you find that when we're looking at this to get evidence, it was clear that so many children, particularly girls, half of the girls of the 53%, right, get married before they attain the age of 18. You see? So you must be lucky. You think Chisomo, memory, not Chisomo, memory? You think you are lucky?
Yes, I'm lucky, sir. Really lucky. It's not easy.
What do you mean? Why?
As girls, we are the victims of early pregnancy. Imagine you are imagine me and this one we are dating.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up impregnating me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll drop out of school, but this one will continue.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So me, I'm lucky because I have, not that I have strict parents or whatsoever, but I have a dream which I want to achieve. So
okay. So
on my list, there is no marriage or whatsoever as for now.
okay, so what is on your list?
My list is to have a rich
Okay.
So I'm chasing my goals now.
You want to be able to
I'm
be
chasing boys. I can't chase these things now. I'm only chasing my goals now.
the education, right?
One, to get rich. Two, to support my family members when I get rich, and also to support my community.
Okay, that's very interesting and good. Okay. Yeah, so abuse is abuse an individual incident that can come out as a question. In other words, you can abuse because you want to, or you allow yourself to be abused, right? So it is also, that's why I say we are sort of reskilling when we are looking at issues of parents here. I think we looked at the issues of the parent skills, parenting skills, not only for parents, but also for children, right? To be able to identify situations which are vulnerable, I mean, can predispose them to vulnerability and how they can avoid such situations. And also issues of resilience, kupirira. See, yes. How do you pirira so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you have an early pregnancy because of your carelessness or something like that? And also the issue of if you have been affected, how do you manage the situation in which you are? So this is how these things are. So here you can see that indeed the child is in trouble, and find that the real drivers of child abuse or violation are several. One of those are social. Social situations can expose a child to vulnerability as possible, right? If you find yourself, because you have no control at home, but by midnight you are still at Bwandiro, what are you looking for? If you are at Bwandiro at midnight, you're looking for money. So many Bwandiro, there's money around at night. How? There's money because the other side is a pub where men go there drinking. After drinking, because they get money from the house. So when they get the money, so how does that expose them to? You see, it's a behavioral issue, right? Yes. That's a behavioral issue. So here, that's why the Journey of Life also uses issues of reskilling. How do you identify vulnerable situations? Is there no shortcut which is better than going there at midnight to look for people who can give you money? And you're exposing yourself too much. STIs and the HIV and AIDS, right? And also probably you also end up drinking, because you can't just sit waiting for people drinking. Yes. Reason so that your mind does not mind and you do anything they want you to do. Okay, so you have all these things around. And here I find that 2 million children actually, even now, they have lost their parents to HIV and AIDS, quite a number of them, right? And all these things have an impact negative on how children get protected and also how children grow up. And all these become serious issues of requiring child protection measures so that they become a human resource for the country and something like that. So here, indeed, we are talking about Journey of Life as something which provides ways in which we can deal with. Now, look here, 47% of children have no basic needs. Morgan, 47, that's a lot. Not even a blanket. What happens if you have no blanket? Is it possible? Or one blanket, 12 people. So whoever use the seat is very lucky, sleep in between. In the middle, yes. Situation? Yes. So that is what it is. The other boy said that, I met a boy who says, "Tinali 6 muyumba. Mara ogona mozi. Ndiye makanganirana zintu kwambiri. Blanket chane. So the only way to get your place early, simna kagone ukakozera pa middle paja. Utaja sizo pasopano. So that was his strategy, which is a bit funny, you know. So here you find that issues of basic needs, for example, who is supposed to provide those basic needs? It's parents, right? Now, if parents don't have those, then indeed you as a child are living in that situation where you'll be vulnerable to quite a lot of exploitations around. So it is important that you understand that. Okay. Let's proceed. We looked at the issue of JOL right here. And I said that the aim of JOL is, not only was, to expand and intensify the use of what we call psychosocial care and support. What is psychosocial care and support? You know, what is psychosocial care and support? Oh, when we talk about psychosocial care, what does that mean? Or psychosocial support? Here, you have two components. Psychosocial support is a term which looks at two issues. Psychosocial support, here it comes into two pieces, right? The psycho is the type of care that you provide to children who are traumatized because of the violence that they have experienced, right? So here is typical trying to address their psychological being, issues of trauma, issues of how they feel, something like that. So here it's about an issue of addressing issues of the mind and issues of the thoughts, right? And issues of the feelings and issues of emotions. Yes. So in psychosocial, just the psycho part of it, you are looking at these things here. While the social support here, you are looking at one, the actual social network support, right? Parents, aunts, uncles, grannies, something like that. What it means is that if a child has lost both parents, right, he will be affected psychologically because of the loss. And you as a social worker, you have to provide this type of support to that particular individual through counseling and guidance, all sorts of things. On the other hand here, the social part of support, you have the issue of networks. Who provide support to the individual, for example, a child who has been raped, for example. Who provides that support? There must be a network that helps that particular individual. What happens to a child who has lost parents? Needs some support around. Do we have a go-go, whatever it is, or something like that? Do we have the community that can come in to support those children around? So you can see here, it means you're still going back to this. This guy. If I break my leg, I'll never be here again. Oh, okay. Social support and physical support when I break my leg. Okay. So here, this is it. So here, social support, there's also the issue of the economic part of it. It's not only social, but socio-economic support. A child who has no school fees, for example, how does that individual go to school? Can the community support that individual? Can government support that individual? So this are, so here you look at so many things. Now, within the social support, the environment, is the environment conducive to provide that type of support to that particular child in that situation? So we find that the JOL looks at all these things and we find that all these things will fall within this framework that we have here. If you look at issues at the meso level here, the meso level, that is where you have the issue of psychosocial support here. Even in the, at family level. But the real professional approach to addressing issues of children is at the center. That's why you have NGOs and FBOs trying to provide material support, bursaries, all sorts of things, food and whatever it is, counseling services. You find that most of them are down here. But at the same time, while you use these things down here, they are also being supported by the laws which are produced at the macro level. So you can see how Journey of Life, psychosocial support, and something, you are lucky because an exam will really examine some of these things because these are actual practical issues on the ground, right? Apart from the theories that we have looked at, this one is looking at the actual practice on the ground. How do you do this and something like that? And secondly, let's look at what next here. You can see that evidence is still coming out, and that's why there was really need to come up with a strategy which can address these things here. What? 2 out of 3 children, right? 2 out of 3 children are exposed to some form of abuse and exploitation. What it means that we are 3 here, isn't it? Memory yourself and myself, let's assume we are children. It means 2 out of us here, you may be subject to some form of abuse, either memory of abuse or myself, and you'll be safe. Or yourself and memory will abuse. That's what it means here. So you find that it is 2 out of that. So this is actually evidence that necessitates that it is important that at every level of society there must be interventions that can protect children from exploitation, violence, and maybe also neglect at family level. Can the society neglect children or community neglect children? Is it possible for a community just have nothing to do with children or children's protection? It's possible, right?
Yes.
You go to some locations, there will be beer halls all over, and children will be all over there. Does society care about why children are found in those areas? That's the first question. What can they do, right? If they don't do anything, then something is wrong somewhere. Now the society is not taking responsibility on what children are doing in that particular instance. So here, look at Child of Life as a strategy which accompanies what we call the psychosocial support services. Okay, let's move on. Now, do we have traditional mechanisms to protect children? Yes, that's the micro level, right? Do we have the issues of violations and abuse of children in society? Yes, it's at the same micro level. And also, do we have interventions that can come around to prevent such occurrences? Yes, we have covered it. That's why the rules, and also you have the policies around. So this is how you would apply this strategy as an awareness and mobilization tool, and also to capacitate families and communities to identify, respond to abuses, and also to build what we call consensus and dialogue. What is consensus? And what is dialogue? In child protection, we have these two terms that are quite important for you to understand why it is important to have them at the issue of consensus, and I brought in the issue of dialogue. Consensus is agreement. That's it. Consensus is just an agreement. We're in consensus. We're in agreement, right? Yeah. So consensus as an agreement, and dialogue. So dialogue is to share ideas by way of exchange, right? That is dialogue. So consensus at family and community level, you need to agree on what to do by way of protecting children at that level. That's what it means, right? What do you do to protect children at that level? That's consensus. And dialogue is where you are examining, discussing, and coming up with the solutions on child-related protection issues. This is what we do. So dialogue is to dwell on a topical issue that you want to understand, and also see how you go about it and come up with a solution. So in child protection, in child care, here we call it the community dialogue. Community dialogue. Right? So these will come the way they are, and we will be able to understand them in that light. What it is as community dialogue, and from there, how do they impact actual child protection around? So this could easily come as a very small question. What do you understand by community dialogue? That's all. Why is community dialogue important in child protection? Beautiful question. Look that's around.
We will.
Huh?
Oh,
No,
that's
don't tell me. Remember, don't bother. You still ask when to come one day. Yeah. In I'm going to being a sick. Exactly a sick, you know, the kind of listen to your one, such as support.
I was there last month.
Where is it? Where? You live in the village?
Yes.
What is it called? Oh, yeah. That's not taking. That's not taking. It's not a must be in a road or something.
No, it is.
Okay, let's forget about it. So here, community dialogue, just like the journey of life, are both strategies. The difference is, journey of life looks at three things: mobilization, awareness, reskilling, trauma management, and resilience building. Then you have my marks. Community dialogue is what it is here. How you build consensus, which is an agreement on an issue. Building an agreement on an issue. That is what we call consensus. We agree on an issue. Now, that for child protection will lead to what we call the community dialogue. And community dialogue is specific for those things. You have agreed on a topical issue. You are examining it. Once you examine it, you discuss. Once you discuss, at the discussion level, you're looking at the pros and cons, whatever it is, and something like that. Then eventually you find solutions to that type of issue that you're trying to deal with. So this is how I understand that. It's not an interesting small issue, but it's so important. Don't forget that as much as we're looking at what child protection is, what safeguarding is, what UN systems are on child protection, this journey of life, the PSSA I'm giving you, and the community dialogue, these are practical issues on the ground, right? And see how these can fit into our child protection framework. That's what we're trying to do. Have you ever heard about child protection framework? What? I've seen it. Never. What? What is it? Okay, well, no problem. We'll get it. You will get it. Alright, so, yes.
We need the paper. We need it in the paper.
12. JOL helps you build consensus and dialogue around children's issues. That's what I'm trying to illustrate. Here, what it means is that when I look at issues of children from the protection perspective, ensure that you approach that in a very holistic manner. What does that mean when we say holistic manner? Holistic way of approaching issues is where you look at an issue, examine an issue from different dimensions. Right? How you examine an issue from different dimensions gives you what we call a holistic approach. In other words, we are looking at issues of child protection and want to look at issues of child protection from a holistic viewpoint. You'll be addressing or looking at or examining issues of child protection from different dimensions: social, economic, environmental, care practices, and things like those. That is what we when they create that understanding of your child protection interventions as being holistic, right? They look at different angles. Can a child be abused or be in an abusive situation because of the social conditions in which that child is in? Yes. Economic situation? Yes. All sorts of things that can actually bring about that type of situation to a child. That's what we call holistic approach. That's another good question. Yes. Child protection measures are best used or are effective if applied from a holistic viewpoint. Discuss. Kapanya okay, sikache. Yes. Sikache about nothing. Right. So we can see now how we are moving down, right? We started with the child protection framework, and we can see now it is moving out from the meso to the macro, right? We're looking at Mobile that's what to do now. All right, forward. Good.
Mambo wapi?
Wachache naribu kumaliza
Ndilipo swali mbili chanda chini.
look at all those things kwa mzee Peter Sosaseli.
Sawa.
Au sema mnalo wale
Sawa au sasa uko bana chips babona bana. Ndeni tembo ili aba. Ndio unaza.
tested
Tested them. Oh, 4 years sir. Sana ndio.
you are right. Okay. I've never tested any one of these.
Tested.
7 years.
Awama mbogo sisi. Sawa.
Well, I'm a who. So how did you test yourself?
Mesa at first jambo anagudula wina unagula yote.
Oh,
That time we said tested.
you didn't know what to do. This one here?
This one not that much.
Mrs. Tester.
Kwa mama wa chips baji.
Okay. That's an interesting.
Alakuja mangu kwa saba.
For breakfast.
Good. So now we see how we're feeding into the macro within the framework. The government is coming with the laws, policies, and the UN is coming with the conventions at the end. So here you can see that immediately move into the CRC, which tells us what is supposed to be there, what the child is supposed to be, and how the child can be protected, and also how governments can respond to UN prescriptions on what the child protection should be. And you can see also still moving down to SADC and so on and so forth. So JOL actually became part of the SADC, right? In Zimbabwe, in Namibia, in whatever it is, we find JOL as a strategy. We find PSS as a strategy. And actually our PSS in Malawi here was copied from Zimbabwe. I still remember that in the early 2000s. There's an NGO called RESP, which was championing this. And as Malawi, we had to copy that because of very good for addressing issues of HIV and AIDS, and also issues of orphans, and also how we can build on how do we go back to communities and reskill them on how they can protect children. Yeah. Okay. Well, that is it. So just a summary. It's just a mobilization and awareness, and also the issue of planning, after planning. What's all about that? And yeah, that's it. What are the lessons? This one, an awareness. Two, how to use life experiences as a child and as an adult. I think today I was talking looking at what we call the ego states. Those are life line type of things. As a child, as an adult, as a parent. It's a journey, right? Do you think some of the things that the adults do, are you adults or children?
We're children.
Adults.
No, we're still young.
What makes you think that?
I'm still a child.
Young adults.
You're young adults. Okay.
He's a child.
Why?
I will tell you. So tell us, why are you a child?
I'm still young.
What do you mean?
What do you mean when you say you are still young?
I'm still young. I'm just 15.
Good. So you're just
You asked the legal age.
okay. Yeah, so that is it. So one of the issues with the JOL activities, they are participatory methods. They help community to participate in identifying, preventing, and protecting abusers, right? That's one of those. And also, it does bridge the gap between people who really understand and those who don't. That's why we use the JOL, right? Build awareness at community level. For those who can read and write, you still have the information and you'll be able to apply and use that on there. This way. This cassava was in the sweet. No? Yeah, but you know, I'm always like that. You see me on tops. Simple as well.
And then you go home shivering.
You get sick, sir.
Why?
Malaria.
Malaria does not bring malaria. That's what people tell us when you're growing up, right? For example, that's true.
It's true.
How?
Somehow.
Okay, let's proceed. So here, the journey of life, that's what it gives us, but especially practical. And also, how you can change the community view, the mindset of the community, individuals and families, on what constitutes responsibility, their responsibility on children, on children issues, right? This is how it works. And also, issues of collaboration. Morgan, what is a collaborative approach to social work? Collaborative approach in a social work practice. What is it?
People coming together and collaborating.
Right. So here, that's what it is. And the general way also is an empowerment too. So communities get empowered, right? To understand what they can do and also how they can protect children in that context. And also it brings in the issue of what we call self-determination about what they want to do for their children and type of mechanisms that they can bring around. And also it's an intergenerational transfer of skills. Remember, what is intergenerational transfer?
Maybe tu ambikanazi.
Chisomo, what is intergenerational transfer?
I would say from the statement, it's something that is passed on from generation to generation.
Okay, that's it. So what that means that if one generation understands why it is important to protect children from abuse and all sorts of hazards, the next generation will pick up from there, right? Yes. The things that you do now maybe have been passed on to you, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
You are not this time. This time your generation is being you're being socialized by social media. That's the problem. Yes. Because the real things that happen in the village, in the home, on the ground, you don't even know those. Yeah.
Yes, it's true.
they tell you to do certain things you cannot do because you're corrupted by your media or your situation.
Yes.
So that's what it is. So here, this is what it is, and also the issue of what I've said, determinism. This is where we're able to determine what is there and what is not around. And here also, at community level, things about coordination, and also we have issue of case management. What is case management? Tell me. Remember, what is case management?
Assessing that information.
So,
Case management is the assessing, evaluating,
okay. So that is what we call case management, as you put it. But it also involves what we call the collaborative approach, right? So case management and collaboration goes hand in hand. Because when you are dealing with a case and when you are managing a particular case, you may find a case which crosses boundaries, right? Let's give an example of rape. You know, the marriage is what organization. It cuts across. So in that way, the case is managed by different institutions or organizations, all stakeholders. But in the end, to end up with a solution to that problem, right? Managing from different types of expertise, which is drawn from different sectors, to fit into that particular case. That's what case management is. So, question will come. State 3 advantages and 3 disadvantages of case management in social practice. Therefore, I'm assisting with that. And you change it. 3 and 3 in child protection. Yeah, that would be good. No, you have that case management.
Yes, we have. And secondly,
Yeah.
there is long time ago.
I'm not supporting, I'm not building on what you learn. I mean, you forget other things and you look for new things.
Yes.
No. Someone will incremental, you're building on. The knowledge you build, you don't know something, you forget about it, start the new thing now.
Incremental policy.
No. What's that? And also, JLL gives us what we call the rights-based approach. Rights-based. Right? Where we tend to bring or put the interest of the child at heart and we proceed from that particular angle. This is how it could be looked at. Wonderful. Thank you very much. We are meeting next. Do we need a makeup? So kuna matoka sana. Wewe sana
Memory need a makeup class.
That's what I'm saying. Why do you disagree this one? Well, it's not good once we see it.
Remember we have a meeting with you around what 1?
Maybe my message is not clear.
Yes.
The meeting is for those guys that are going to Mchiki. It's not for everyone.
Who are they?
They know themselves.
Myself.
You have been evicted. Please leave the
Leave
house.
the house.